Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for the delay because we have shifted the presentation, and I'm welcome you to this hub session of the consumer centricity. This session is about business models, financing and services. And the main questions of these topics are how to finance the offerings for the customers and how is the best way to use the resources which we are needed for. And the following excellent speakers will help us to answer the questions. We have hopefully two speakers, then a little coffee break for refreshing us, and then also two speakers, and at the end, at about 5 o'clock, we have a panel discussion with all the speakers. Yes, then we will start. Every presentation has a time limit of 20 minutes. I will keep the time. And after every presentation, we have a smart microphone where every people who would like to have a question, please contact and you get the microphone. I would like to have a living discussion after every presentation. My name is Andreas Schuster. I'm from the Aspern Smart City Research. I have only one slide here. We are a company, a joint venture between Siemens, Wien Energie is the local energy provider in Vienna and also the largest energy provider in Austria. Then the Wiener Netze is the grid operation unit in Vienna and around Vienna. And also two joint venture partners, the Wiener Business Agency and the Aspern Development Company, who develops the urban building area in the Seestadt Aspern, so-called. We develop products and prototypes in a smart city context. We develop optimization tools, also building energy management systems in the building, and we build up the digitalization of the local grid area. And we mainly do this in the city development area in the so-called in Vienna Seestadt. There you see some pictures from there. And this was a greenfield approach, and so we have the best condition to test all the prototypes, new business models with the customers, with the people in the region. Okay, this was advertising for me. If you have any question, please come to me or visit our homepage. We are also make some traveling sites to this area. Okay, the first speaker, I swap it, hopefully, is Markus Krüger from Germany. He's talking for the company Westnetz. We moved this presentation. This was planned after the coffee break. He told us about the transformation, the roadmap of the grid company in Germany. Okay, Markus, please.
Can I use this microphone? Or?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Warm welcome from my side. As you see, I'm not Jan Buschkamp like announced, but I'm a colleague of him in the project of Westnetz, and I'm happy to be here and to share with you some insight concerning the project we do at the moment at the Westnetz side for the big grid operator in Germany. Is it okay with the loudness? Yeah, okay. Okay. Jan Buschkamp and my person are part of the project member team together with some other guys I will introduce later as project members. What is the project about? The idea of the project was, when we started this, to evaluate the implementation as for SAP S4HANA utilities, and we wanted to check out the technology as a shared billing cloud platform for a grid company. And this is what our aim is, to build and to prepare and to concept a platform which Innogy can use for the grid companies to provide there all the processes and the SAP IT. Due to the end of maintenance of ISU, we took this as a point to create an idea of rebuilding the landscape, and the main motivation to do that is, and these are the aims of the project, to reduce operating costs, of course to optimize the business processes and sharing the best practices, and reduction of development costs, of course, and of course on the other hand side to increase the ability to innovate. And yes, we discussed two possibility to do that. One thing is to do is like a continuous improvement and small steps, but we decided to go another way, to a disruptive change, and to restart and to build as a greenfield. Let me say some words why we decided very early to keep on SAP and to use SAP as a common platform. For a grid company, it's very, very important to have a stability and to have a running billing process for the invoicing. And due to that, the companies which are in the Innogy group are using at the moment SAP, and that was the idea to use this furthermore, but to participate from the innovations which SAP provides. And so we had on the one hand side the idea of the standard processes we want to make more efficient, and there's the idea of more automation with a new technology, and on the other hand side, of course, to the possibility to participate from the technology ideas of SAP. Yeah, on the one hand side, due to the efficiency, we have new technology like Marco Cloud, which SAP has announced for the German market end of 2019, and we are working together in the project due to reducing optimizing net grid usage costs and fees, and we are working on automatization things like machine learning, and of course one thing what is very important for us in the project is the improvements of UI Fiori, which we think that we reduce the clicks which the users have to do at the moment. On the other hand side, we have new technology like SAP Cloud Platform, now improved customer access, customer engagement, and customer management in S4, and of course agile applications, mobile applications. We have more possibilities due to SAP HANA, like more highly reaction rates and more system performance, and of course new technology like IoT or blockchain comes up, and that is the idea that we have a new platform where we can participate from this new technology. So these are the main project goals we are following at the moment. Let me say some words to the constellation where we set up this project. For us, and I speak for Westnetz, it was very important to work very intensive together with SAP. And this goal we achieved, and we are very happy that we had an announcement and a strong commitment of SAP to the project, where we have a partnership of innovation with SAP in that project, and that helps us to go, for example, in co-innovation things. I will give you furthermore some information due to that, and the SAP is strongly involved to build up a reference model, and of course we want to do, if we build it up, some sales and marketing with this new platform for grid companies. The other, I mentioned before that I want to say something to the partner which are working in the project. These are mainly Accenture, SAP and Kronos, that's me, together with my colleagues, and I think we are a strong partner together. Accenture brings up all the experience of the German guys know this, verbandsübergreifende Initiative, and all the business case stuff we need in the project, and SAP and Kronos brings all the experience on the implementing side. So we are a very strong team, have a lot of resources for the project, and I can say it's a lot of fun to work together with these guys, and I think the results are very good. So what is the idea of the cloud platform we want to build for the grid companies? At first, and that's the part where we are actually now, we built up built up a sandbox where we installed S4HANA utilities, and now we are building up a reference model for DSO, and we have as another rule in the German market the default meter system operator, which we cover as well in this platform. And the next year we want to expand the volume of the functionality and upgrade and enhance this whole package, and we want to connect the SAP Cloud platform as an application layer, and of course we want to use then the SAP Market Communication Cloud, which we expect is very important for the future, and for the reducing of the cost in future, because in Germany the market communication is a very big part of the cost in the processes. And in future, of course, we want to bring up best practices in this GNI template, and want to enhance it more and more. So this is the idea. We stick at the moment in this part to build up the sandbox and to calculate the business cases and to build up the architecture. And let me say some words to the process scope. And as I mentioned, our scope for the rules in the market are the grid company and default meter system operator, and due to that we have the core operations in the meter to cash range. These are customer contact, usage, billing, payments, credit and collection, market communication, as I mentioned, business processes, energy and data management, and the grid operation assessment management, incident management, for example, meter data management, management fees, as you see here. So what not in the scope are the other processes which are mentioned. So the idea of the architecture, and that is what the billing cloud is about, that we bring it into a landscape where other vendors as well are in the whole architecture, like Robotern and Microsoft, but what our scope is to do the billing part and to do the market communication, and of course for the back office customer relationship, customer management, which comes up with S4HANA utilities. So that was a big thing to build this architecture, to define this architecture and to have one common architecture, which we are mainly working on for Westnetz and Midnetz at the moment. So let me say some words to the project organization. We have the project management, and then we have three sub-projects. The first project is a sub-project is a reference model where we build up the sandbox and the functionality. And as I mentioned, the commitment of SAP to work together in a partnership here is that we have the possibility, and this is not often in Germany, that Westnetz has the possibility to work very intensive together with SAP in the co-innovation side. This is especially Marco Cloud, for example, then the simplification of the net usage, and the machine learning things, which are, for example, for the implausible meter readings. These are very strong things where we expect that we can reduce the costs for the process in a way that we can't achieve at the moment. But due to that, I want to give you some ideas in few slides later. Yeah, reporting usability, and of course we want to check all the functionality SAP brings up, and we want to check if we can improve our landscape with that. As I mentioned, we have this other thing there where we calculate the business case and the architecture to provide and to have KPIs for this new platform. And last but not least, the sub-project 3 are things, as you can imagine, if you migrate to a new platform, you have to do some housekeeping before. And this is what local transformation means. For example, Westnetz has merged at the moment between two systems that has to be done before. And of course, data quality assurance topics which are done before. And we decided to control it in this project organization as well. Yeah, what about the timeline? You can see the timeline for the sub-projects. We are planning to use the system to go productive in 2022. One thing is, one reason for it is that we have to do a lot of conceptual work due to that, but of course we have the market communication thing with the Marco Cloud, and this is for us not possible to go earlier. But honestly, I'm happy about that because we have a lot to do some homeworks there, and it's okay for us. And the timeline is, I think, very realistic. Yeah, in 2019 we want to set up the template, and we want to start with one end-to-end process. The first idea is maybe to pick our one end-to-end process and to build it productive, and to see and to evaluate how we can achieve the reduction. And sub-project 3, of course, we do before we do the migration, the housekeeping things and the DB change, which is necessary. We have to go to switch the database to HANA before we go to the new system. And then, of course, the migration project, which is directly in 2020-21 planned at the moment. Yeah, afterwards, as you maybe know, there are more companies in the Innogy group. Maybe there's a rollout for other companies possible. So to give you a small idea of how we are expecting to achieve the automation and the reducing of the costs, I want to give you I think, an idea how we want to manage it. In the last 2 years, we worked very hard on implementing the processes in the system. That means so digitalization brings the process into the SAP system. Then that is what we done last 2 years. We optimized it, for example, with business process exception management, and that was really very, very good. Where we achieved a very good saving at all because we reduced click rates and we reduced the exceptions. And what we are planning now to do is the optimization on the user interface side. This is mainly the thing of Fiori apps, for example, and the moonshot, but we are working on that, is the machine learning, that the system itself clears this exception and to helps us to increase the automation rate. And yeah, this is a thing what we are working and what we are checking about. And here, example for an interface, Fiori interface, which we build in the sandbox for at the moment. On the left-hand side, you see the UI, the old UI of business process exception management for an administrator and a team leader. Yeah, it's an old lookalike, and on the right-hand side, you see an example for more, I think, from my point of view, more attractive and more easy to understand UI in a Fiori. The other thing is here an example for the automation evaluation we've done in the past. At first we worked in workflows, then we switched to SAP BPM and reduced the cost, the process cost, and yeah, we implemented algorithm. You see it like small bots here, which are able to solve some exceptions, and therefore we are able now to solve exceptions of category 1 and 2, but category 3 and 4, these are categories which the user has to check manual and to work manual on it. And this is our focus for the next step, that we want to put here or to check if we go with machine learning in that cases. In addition to that, what SAP does with machine learning for the implausible meter reading. So there are a lot of ideas, and we are very, I think, positive that we can achieve that, and we are working in the right way. And yeah, the main thing for a grid company, because you have not the possibility to get more money with new customers, with sales, you have only the possibility to decrease the process costs, and because of that, the automation is one main goals for us for the new platform. And so we have the goal in the project, automation first, and yeah, this is the idea. And this is what I want to give you an idea of the possibility to automate. Yeah, this is what I want to give you a short impression of what we are doing, what we are planning in this project Builds for Grid. And yeah, thank you from my side. I'm here to answer some questions if you like, and afterwards I'm at the SAP desk as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, now it's time for questions. Microphone, smart.
Hello. In what year do you want to realize machine learning in your system?
Actually, we are working. Excuse me. Thank you. Actually, we are working on it in the sandbox, and we are working some use cases for it. But in the system which we want to build in 2022. We want to have use cases in that, and we want to use machine learning due to some processes. If that are in future all the processes, I'm not sure, but we want to do a priority, and then of course we want to use it.
You want edit to sub utilities?
Exactly. Yeah. In the industry solution, yes.
You make as assistance your product for in your system. Program assistant in machine learning or you want global system where information all machine learning.
I don't know if I understand the question in the right way, but what we want to do is to use this functionality which SAP provides. This is a software side, and if the question is how does it work, we want to look in the history of the data, and we want to do estimation, a forecast for every exception, for example, like this, and to help the users to solve the exceptions and or to the meter readings to give a hint what is plausible, what is implausible, and maybe to solve this problem by the machine. And this is what SAP, we are working in the co-innovation on it, for example. Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Another question? Okay, then a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, to the next one. We are back in track like we planned. The second speech is about utility showcases, and Mark Rodman is not here, but the colleague John Henderson from Bird Galley is here, and yeah, you can start. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining me this afternoon. I was actually hoping to get my steps up this afternoon jumping around the stage, but clearly that's not going to happen. So I've got to think of something else later. So, let me just try and work out the technology.
This way, or you switch like this?
Oh, easy. So, Bidgely, and artificial intelligence, kind of the buzzword at the moment, but artificial intelligence, and what do? We look at consumption data from the smart meter, non-smart meters, and real-time data. But if we look at the utility industry as a whole, I don't think I'm being particularly controversial here when I say that no other industry do utilities and company who collect consumption data have so much customer data, have so much consumption data, yet they do so little with it. And I know that's kind of a bit of a generic thing, but it's what we see time and time again in North America, in Europe and in Asia Pac where we work. And if we take similarities with other industries, we were lucky at Bidgely a few weeks back to have Netflix present at one of our user engagement. And they presented about artificial intelligence and how they use artificial intelligence on their consumption data. And it is truly mind-blowing. I don't have enough time to go through it, but if we look at how they use the data, what they use the data for, what you see as a profile to determine what you're going to watch, what films you're going to see, where the data's downloaded, where the data's uploaded, and when you see it, and that all feeds into the artificial intelligence. And again, there's so many similarities with media and entertainment that what we're trying to do in utility sector. So if I jump ahead and talk you through some of the things that we're doing, some of the things that we've seen, some of the things that are being done today, but some of the things we're also doing today with some of our customers. And we look at the before and after. And what you see there is what companies have done with energy efficiency, home energy reports. it's a fairly generic view of energy saving. It doesn't take into consideration who lives in the property. It might be a retired couple, it might be a professional couple. It just says that if you put loft insulation in, you're going to save X. If you replace with LED bulbs, you're going to save Y. Okay? If we look at what Bidgely does, it takes that consumption data and other data forms as well, like weather data and so on, and it provides itemization. And what does itemization mean? It means that at the monthly or quarterly you get a bill, and instead of it saying kilowatt hours and this is what you owe us, it breaks it down into something far more meaningful. So we don't use kilowatt hours, like some utilities do. We use pounds, shillings and pence, dollars, euros. And we break it down into something more meaningful. And this is really only the start of the journey of what we do. And we do this for gas as well as electricity, by the way. And if we take this and look at it as it is today, there's several benefits from it. Two of which are, one is that the customer gets to see what they're spending and maybe help to save. So you're personalising the data. So before it was generic, now it's personal. And you're helping them with recommendations, insights as to ways in which they can save that's personal to them, not a generic thing. If we take it from a utility perspective, there's some great things here, because what you can do is you can build tariffs, you can build products based on their consumption data. And if we use the analogy I used earlier about a property and somebody living in that property being a retired couple, it might be the same property next door, same type of property, but there's a professional couple. How they use their energy in any one given day is going to be very different. A retired couple may go shopping in the morning, they're going to watch TV in the afternoon, they're going to use energy differently. A professional couple disappear out the door 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, go to work, come home at 7 o'clock at night. Again, you can build tariffs, you can build products around how they use. And we're looking at things like time of use. Demand response is a big thing in North America at the moment. It may eventually come to Europe. So again, how people are using it can help you as a utility build products and build solutions to help your customer and make the customer more sticky. The idea of this is you don't want people to churn, you don't want people to leave. If people are fed up because they've got a high bill, you're too late, they're going to leave. You want people to stay, you want people on a standard variable tariff, because that's where the money is. And again, going back to personalisation. So again, the itemisation is great, but so what? It's what you do with that data that really does bring to life what it's about. If we look at, again, what happened before, and I mentioned this a moment ago, people get an energy bill, it's 8-10 pages long. If you're in Italy, it's 15 pages long, and it really just tells you what you've spent and how much you've got to pay. Whoopie-doo. What we're trying to do is alter that, and there's certain certain utility companies, particularly in the UK, and there's certain departments and that recognise that customers only spend 6 minutes a year actually looking at their energy bill, actually engaging with the utility. That's not great. You've got a customer here who's spending a lot of money with you, you're looking to increase the profit margins, you want to engage with them, you want to keep them happy. And what we're trying to do here at Bidgely, and what we've done at Bidgely, is we maximise our touch points. So we use email, SMS, so what? We use websites, we've got our own app. But to be fair, apps was a great big thing 5 years ago. It's still there, nobody really uses it. But what we do have is APIs that link into the utility app. So again, you're really maximising one version of the truth. We've seen in the last 6 to 12 months a huge investment in voice with Google and Alexa, various other things. And speaking with Google recently, at the moment in North America, 25 million people, slightly more, are using a voice product. They predict in the next 3 to 4 years that's going to be 250 million people just in North America alone. So the voice channel is really important in how we engage. And what this slide really is just it's an illustration of what we do. So don't take too literally the dates, but it's about the touch points, how we engage and when we engage. And there's some really useful messages here. So at the beginning of the month, you get a monthly summary of what you used for last month. We then do what's called a usage comparison. So again, you've got two neighbours, one's a retired couple, one's a professional couple. It's pointless doing a usage comparison of those two because they're going to use it differently. So again, based on the information we have, based on the volume of data we've got, we do a comparison of a retired couple in a 3-bedroom detached house with a whole heap of other similar properties, and we use that information to go back to the customer and say, actually, based on your profile and based on the information that we're collecting from you, you're using 10% more energy than people in the similar bracket to you. And that's really important, because what you're doing as a utility, you're being proactive. You're educating the customer to use less energy, but you're helping them become more sticky into your profile. And again, the budget alert. So what we can do, some customers, this is really important with students. So students at the beginning of September go into to their houses and whatever, and they've never had to care about energy. So what we do is we use a budget alert. And what the budget alert does is you set what your budget is for the month, and it might be €100. And you determine, when I've hit 70% of my budget, give me an alert and tell me what I'm spending it on, so I can make a change. And again, it's about being proactive before the event. You're not telling the customer after they've used it, oh, by the way, your bill's gone up 25% because you've used more energy. That's not a great place to be. And again, the budget alert might happen on day 28. That's great. If it happens on day 10, you've got a few problems that you've got to iron out pretty quickly. So that's kind of what we do with some of the proactive stuff, some of the stuff that we're doing. And again, the little thumbs up and thumbs down. We work a lot with the utilities engaging in surveys, and the surveys was this useful? Did you find this interactive? Would you stay with the utility if this information was great? And the surveys, if we keep the surveys to less than 3 minutes, we have more people to participate. That's just experience. And we like the thumbs up, thumbs down, because it's what people are used to with things like social media and Facebook and so on. And one of the recent things we did at Duke Energy, a massive utility in North America, was this service useful to you? And 94% people responded and said yes, it would be useful. So we know we're in the right direction. If we look at things like high bill calls, and again, this is the utilities nemesis, particularly when you're moving from dumb meters to smart meters. Dumb meters, you've been paying an estimated bill for a certain period of time. You install a smart meter, wow, where did that bill come from? So, it's always the utility's fault. And it never ceases to amaze me. Now, the poor lady here, I think some of us can empathise with the way she's feeling. You put on hold, you want to explain, you talk about your bill, you can't afford your bill, you've just had a massive bill before Christmas, what do you do? And again, it comes back to some of the things I was mentioning earlier about what we're doing today in the after bit is we're alerting the customer before the event. We're using tools like Voice, Google and Alexa to what is my current bill at the moment, what am I spending most of my energy on, and so on and so forth. And if we take what I've just been through another step further, what we've got is, we've taken itemization, we've provided hints, tips and recommendations, we've provided proactive alerts, and again, that's all great stuff to feed back into your customer. But you as a utility, what else can you do to maximize a revenue stream? Because I think it's no hidden secret that in the next 4 to 5 years we're going to have companies like Amazon and Google maybe selling energy. I mean, there's no secret in that. And utilities are often asking, well, how can we maximize alternative revenue streams? And we talk about data monetization. And this is a real big topic for us, because if you look at a utility with 1 million customers, for instance, that's 1 million touch points in which you can sell services. Sell services like maintenance, white goods, particularly in the gas industry. In the UK, for instance, we have a lot of people use gas boilers for heating and hot water. If you can recommend a maintenance program that's associated with their usage, and you can look at the itemization and determine when a boiler is starting to become more inefficient, you can schedule an engineer to go out and service the boiler rather than wait until it's due later in the time. So again, you're keeping the customer happy. You're trying to avoid the glut of maintenance guys going out in October and November, start of the winter heating season. And again, you're providing a service and a value to the customer that they haven't seen before. And we're also organisations are looking at things like leasing white goods, leasing air conditioning, leasing refrigerators, and providing long-term maintenance. So it's a real big thing at the moment, looking at alternative revenue streams. So I've kind of come to the end of my presentation. I think I'm just ahead of time. Yeah, thank you. So again, the obligatory slide of showing who we're working with, where we're working, just a sample of the customers. Some of them I can talk about, some of them I absolutely can't. I can just give the logo. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. And I hope that all made perfect sense. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, John. Okay, do you have any questions? I have one. You show some pictures about the smartphone and the app and so on. Did you have a practice example where do you start the new information, the alerts and so on? Is there any practicable experience about this tools or this?
So yeah. There's one company I'm working with at the moment who've built their own website, and the issue they have is that the customer has to log on to the website. They have 200,000 customers, and 3 people log into the website.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not great, is it? When you've invested a lot of money, and what we do is the proactive alert. It tells them that actually you're okay, and what tends to happen is people, okay, if I'm okay, I don't need to look. The point of this is and the objective is to try and maximise the value, but also stop people leaving the company. Because we know in some places it costs 6 times more to get a new customer than it does to keep the existing customer. So how do we keep the existing customer happy? When you spot a problem, when you spot an issue, that's when the alerts come out on the phone to say, actually, we've spotted a problem, you're 10% more than you should be, this is where the problem is, can we have a chat with you, or do you want to dig in deeper? And that's where the smart technology comes in.
Because in Aspern we have this nearly the same. We have a smart user app with the energy feedback, and the people who use it goes down, and then we have a stable position about 80%. It's much because we have one control functions, but energy feedback is silly. You look once or twice a time, and then it's boring. And
so what we do is we track open rates, and we track the click-throughs, and we track people who are using this thing, and we get somewhere between 70 and about 77% open rates for the first email, and that after 2 or 3 months drops because some people just don't change, they don't do anything different, and that's fine. They're not the people you're really trying to target with some of this messaging, but it flattens out to around about 55-60%, and that's continuous then over the lifetime of the customer using the Bisley solution.
Perfect. Yeah. Is there now any questions about the audience? Okay, then John, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next speaker, I think Stuart Grain isn't here. Is he? No. Therefore, we have 2 speakers who are not here. So the time shifting of the speakers is already occurred. And so I make a vote. What person who would like to have a coffee break now for 20 minutes? Or should we keep the time and have the next speakers? Neil, who is for the coffee break? Only one? Okay. Then we keep away with the next speaker, Neil Jones, from the Swedish company EFS, but from the United Kingdom. Yes, we talked about it at lunch. I'm very interesting in your speech. Then we start.
Thank you, Andreas.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me and understand me today. I'm afraid I've gotten a little ill from the aircraft, so you'll have to excuse me if I speak a little bit lower and more sexy. Okay, so my name's Neil Jones. I've come along and I'd like to say straight away, based on the previous speakers we've just had come up, what I'm about to say may sound slightly repetitive. However, it's a great sign that we're all starting to think along the same line. So things that I've just been hearing there, maximizing the use of your investments in IoT, trying to really power through that customer experience, linking up your marketing with the actual end user experience of the physical device, if there is one, etc. That's all going the way I'm going to talk about. So I've got a little bit of a mouthful here, which, like I say, is brilliant when I've got a sore throat. So what I'll do is, first of all, just reiterate why are we doing this. So we've got here the main CIO at Dell, and he was saying the customer experience is the next competitive battleground. So obviously, you know, differentiation, you want to really stand out from those other companies. Here we go. We've got a few quotes from some of the analysts. There they are. I'm not sure how much I believe all of these things, of course, but I'm certainly confident they're on the right line. They're saying here, though, that last one, by 2020, more than 40% of all these data analytical projects will relate to the aspect of customer experience. So if that's the case, you need to really be bearing that in mind as we go forward. Okay, how do we do that? So you've got all of these different systems, all of these different technologies, all of these different departments. So if we get them all talking to each other, so it's technology behind it, underpinning it, bringing it together. So what have we got? So if we have a look here, omni-channel contact center. So it's no longer just good enough to have a contact center that's having calls and emails, live chat coming in. Okay, fine, you can bolt on social media, you can bolt on workflow, all of that sort of thing. But really, to make the most of this, they need to be able to talk to each other. So if I have a problem in the middle of the night and I send an email in, maybe I take a photograph with an attachment, maybe I don't get a response, I phone in and instead there's just a voicemail there. I leave a voicemail but nobody phones me back straight away. 9 a.m, as soon as the actual contact center opens, I'm going on maybe live chat. I'm at work at this point, so I'm having to do it discreetly while my boss isn't looking, and I'm saying something's gone wrong, help me. And then the agent just says to me, well, can you give me the details again? And I'm having to tell them exactly what I've already sent them from the email, or what I've already left them the message in the voicemail. All of that sort of stuff, let's get that talking together into CRM Fusion. So when you've got that holistic view of a single customer, if you know all of those different channels, data sources, and the channel can be IoT now as well, I just see that as just another channel of data coming into the contact center. The Internet of Things is getting mixed up with the field service. As we've just had explained, the diagnosis is old. Nobody does diagnosis, it's prognosis. You need to be predicting when it's going to go wrong. You want to stop it before they have a chance to even be upset. If a customer's only contact point with you is when their product is broken and you're telling them it's going to cost them money and time to get it fixed, that's a terrible experience from the very beginning. But instead, in that one touch point once a year that you do have, if you can say, we've proactively assisted you by warning you of something, we can see something coming up based on your data. We mentioned earlier, my previous speaker explained the idea that a professional couple and a retired couple are quite different. So I call those different cohorts. So they're in different groups. Compare this data you've got of your existing cohorts. Speak to your marketing people and divide them up. Approach them accordingly. Promote smoke detectors and things to people who smoke, that kind of thing. It just makes sense to do it. And then finally, we've got the scheduling and optimization that's always there, and mobility. So I've just put a single icon there, but it's quite powerful. We've talked about, just earlier, the previous speaker pointed out, nobody's using apps anymore. If you have an app on your phone, you've got to really have a reason for them to go in. And I think, why do you have to have an actual app? Why can't you just have a website that they can just land on quickly and go straight in? Does it need to take up precious space on that very expensive iPhone of theirs? As a result, we end up with this, the single customer view. You can see over on the left, we've got all of those channels I've just covered. They're all coming in along with all your legacy data, all the stuff that's historical, the stuff that you get out from reports. That's not live data, but we blend it with the live data. Get that all together. Simplify it, narrow it down just to that individual customer. So when you've got a touch point, you can have a laser focused screen so your agents have just the information they need from all of the different services that you've got pulled together and displayed for that individual customer. It's laser focused. You can't go wrong. So I've got a couple of practical examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to use your imagination, and let's pretend that we've got a person who's awaiting an engineer. They've got a problem, an engineer's on their way. However, the classic question, where is my engineer? It's because their child is, let's say it's a thunderstorm and it's lashing with rain and the child is cold and they're shivering and their mum needs to go and pick them up. Okay, great. So they phone you. This is how it goes. At the moment, the customer phones in and they say, oh, I want to know, where is my engineer? They go through to an IVR menu first, so they don't get to say it. They listen, none of those options are, where is my engineer? So they just pick one, change of address. They go through to an agent, and the agent says, how can I help you? They say, where is my engineer? They have to go through all the detail. They're repeating themselves. We already know all of these answers, we just have to match them up somehow. The agent says, I only do change of addresses, and they transfer them over to the correct agent. So they finally get where they're going. And then they have that conversation, and okay, fine, we solve it. But how could it work? Okay, it's the same person, they phone in. But this time, they come into an AI queue. So the phone starts ringing, and immediately on the server, the data starts getting interrogated. So we look, do we know this telephone number? Okay, we do. If we know the telephone number, let's pull out their CRM data. Let's go and have a look. What products have they bought? What services are they subscribed to? Let's go and get all of this information. Oh, and what's this? We notice they've got a job on and it's due today. Okay, so maybe we can see, can we help them out here in advance? We have a look, and previously, maybe, the engineer would have been, 50 minutes away. Okay, well, we'll just wait for them to arrive. In this case, why not go to the FSM system, see where the engineer is, so it's a smart van, we've got that data, but maybe, instead of just in the old days, you'd have a GPS and you could say, yes, the engineer's just outside of your town, but you couldn't really tell the traffic situation, you couldn't tell if he was pulled over. He might have said, I'm en route, but he might have actually stopped because there's an issue, they have to, there's a roadblock or something, they've got to go around. So instead, we can just use text to voice, tell the customer, the engineer is just outside of your town. However, he's currently showing through Internet of Things. We're seeing an alarm for slow-moving vehicle. So maybe wait, ETA is now, and then add whatever time it is. So we get the FSM to grab the latest ETA and tell that to the customer. My next practical example. Skip the questions if you already know the answers. I love this slide. My Wi-Fi is slow, said my mum every time I speak to her. So how do we solve this? Okay, well, let's see how it normally works. And as we play this game, by all means, think ahead and see where the obvious faults can be in the current process. So we've got a customer. They phone in. They've got a problem. Oh, okay, we're using a chat. So we're on live chat. So they've gone onto your website and they've started a chat. They're talking to a chat agent. We're going to have a conversation and they're going to explain, my Wi-Fi is slow. Why is that? The chat agent will start a triage script. They'll say, what model number is written on the label on the router? What's a router? Pick up the box. Okay, have a look underneath. What colored lights are flashing? I don't know, I'm colorblind. Oh, great, okay. Have you tried turning it off and back on again? Classic. They turn it off, the internet goes off, the chat goes off, game over. Great. And when it comes back up, it's still slow because you haven't actually solved the problem, which I'm going to reveal shortly. Okay, let's do it again. Customer goes onto the website and they start a chat, but with a chat bot this time. We're not talking to a human just yet. So the customer types in, my Wi-Fi's slow. Okay. Well, we can see who this customer is. We can see where they're coming from. So let's look them up. Using the data we've already got, as I said, if you already know the answers, don't ask the questions. So the triage script doesn't need to be asked to the human who's confused and doesn't know what to do. We could maybe go into the IoT data, or maybe look through some other data that you need to go through and pull out the information we need. So let's do a remote query, see what's going on the box, and we can identify maybe a few problems. So we can tell the customer, there's currently 21 active devices connected to your router. One device called Fire Stick is consuming 60% of your bandwidth. Now that customer, they're just being told the information directly without a human being involved. They can contact you any time of day or night in the early hours. You don't need to pay staff to stay up all night like that. It's all done. Now once you tell them it's the Fire Stick that's using the bandwidth, they might find that actually they've left it streaming. These streaming devices, even if you're not watching the channel, they're still playing in the background, so they can go turn it off and it's good. There's my little look up to the IoT data to confirm that. Now my next and last practical example, I promise. So, how can we use virtual assistants to help your own staff? So use them internally as well. So it's all well and good. We can certainly sell IoT devices, smart devices to the consumer because they can see, okay, well I can turn my lights on from my bed. That's great. But at the same time, how do we leverage all of this extra information, all of the small observations and data that's coming in that maybe the consumer doesn't see that level of it, but you have access to it still? Okay, so in this scenario, we're going to have a customer, and this is coming back to my earlier diagnosis versus prognosis. So at this point, the customer has had a long, reliable history with their water boiler, and then all of a sudden it's gone wrong. Now, what long, reliable history with a water boiler means is they've neglected it for years because it was working and they don't need to do anything with it, so they've just ignored it. Now it's gone wrong and it's too late to fix it, so they've phoned in. They come through to an agent, and okay, we've got this all in place at the moment, so we can certainly talk to them, we give them a cost, we say a date, maybe if they're lucky they get a time as well, and then we send an engineer out and that's all done with. But their touch point with us there has been one that's quite negative. We've had to charge them money on top of what they normally pay us, and they've also just got a negative feel because there's been a problem and it's got your brand connected to it. The engineer goes out and hopefully does a good job and maybe tries to win the customer's favor, does a really good sterling install and solves it. But sometimes it doesn't go so smoothly and you need to order more parts, you've got to come back, and again the process is messy and it just taints the brand when we could have avoided it. How could we have avoided it? Well, instead of the customer even experiencing the fault, why don't we have a smart device tell us in advance? So you're looking at that particular cohort of data, you can see that there's a fault developing. Maybe the flow is starting to thin down as the pipe furs up. Whatever it is, if you can start to spot these things yourselves, then relay that out to the customer. In this case, let's pretend that your smart device is supported by a subscription, monthly subscription for the customer. In that case, why don't we tell them, we've noticed there's an issue and we've already arranged for an engineer to come out and see you. Here's a date, here's a time, we've arranged it. In that case, maybe the customer might be a little surprised. The customer might phone in. So in this case, when the customer phones in, they're going to ask, I don't have any problem with my boiler, Why are you sending an engineer out? And you can explain and use this opportunity. This touch point is an opportunity to educate. So again, one of my previous speakers, they explained that when you've got this kind of capability to almost see the future, if you can see the event before it happens, then why don't we use that to educate the customer and explain, well, once a year, it's a good idea to drain this boiler. Maybe, and if they say, well, I don't really know how to drain the boiler, all of this conversation, as they're talking, we're running a rather intelligent chatbot or an AI or a virtual assistant on the desktop. So the agent doesn't always have to think of these things. So as you're talking, analyze that conversation. Look where the agent is clicking. If you know what model boiler they have, provide upsells. Here's accessories that we recommend. If their service agreement is coming to an end soon, maybe next year it's going to run out, then do that cross-sell there. Suggest better services, suggest alternative subscriptions. All of that information is being fed to the agent. The customer doesn't know. On the screen right there, the agent is getting all sorts of suggestions coming in. And it just makes sense to provide that extra encouragement, a little bit of extra steer, a little bit of help. If the customer is about to leave, then why not suggest some retention tricks? Maybe throw in a smoke detector, maybe give them an extra free month or something. But if you follow this path, I think they'd be more than happy to stick with you because you've done them a favor, you've helped them out. So, those are all practical examples of how you could use this just to take away with you. Now, one of the things we need to talk about is how do we actually go about embedding AI, automation? How do we actually get these into the business and get them out there? So, in this example, I'm going to show how covering various channels with the triage that I mentioned earlier, have a look at those questions that you're asking. Everybody has standard triage scripts that they go through. Have a look at those. Can you get more of that information automatically? Instead of having the agent ask the question, can you just say, go and look in this API, go and look in this database? Can you pull that information already? Do you already have it? Don't ask the question. Once you know what you're doing and you've got those answers, you need to route that to the appropriate person. Maybe frontline support can't deal with it straight away. So send it to another agent, but as I've explained, use those assistive technologies, those AI assistants to help your own staff learn and become to become better at their own job. I was trying to think of saying it in a better way. And then you can start to look at which of these processes can you automate. You can't go straight into this. You need to have training. So any AI or automation process, we need to have an established process that we're able to learn first and then feed to train the chatbot, the AI, etc. So in this example, I've suggested we start with FAQs, frequently asked questions, but make it dynamic. Make it so you can start to type and you'll try and match some of your FAQs up. You've probably already got this. That's the best thing. Once you've got those FAQs bubbling away on the screen and the customers entering their records, like their questions, once you've got that data, you can take that and start to learn, okay, for these topics, those articles seem to be the most appropriate. From that section, you can then move to stage 2. So you've got here a live chat. Anything that goes on, it's still with a human being, but you can store that chat information. And then finally, once you've got all of those bits of data, you can then pour that into a chatbot. You need hundreds of examples, and you can start to automate that. And then you don't need humans to deal with all the 70% basic queries that you get all the time. So all those common questions that just waste a human's time, your agents are sat there being frustrated, they're just answering the same queries. Get rid of all them, automate them, get them gone, and then the humans with the real brains, they can be used to answer complex queries that otherwise a chatbot, it's just not cost effective to train for. but that's why you've got human staff who can use their own brains to make the most intelligent decisions. So there's just a few more things I want to just flash up. There's a lot of talk about AI at the moment, as we've just heard from the previous speakers as well. It's definitely a very exciting space at the moment. I'll just leave these up there for the moment. There we go. And then finally, just to recap, so these are the key trends that we're seeing coming out of the customer engagement space. So we can definitely agree all the consumers are addicted to their smartphones. They're not going to go away. You definitely need to have a mobile first strategy. If you haven't already got a mobile first strategy, you need to consider whether you're doing something wrong there. And then we've got the speech applications are just coming along in leaps and bounds every year. They're definitely worth having another look back if you haven't already. And then finally, the 2030, the existing jobs will all be replaced by robots. I don't know. So like I say, I think a third of all existing jobs will be augmented by robots, is what I would like to just differentiate there. And then finally, one last thing, here's some of Donald's milder tweets, and just bear in mind that the customers want to tell their friends and family immediately. So social media, bringing that into the contact center, it's just another channel. IoT data, it's just another channel. That's everything from me, guys. And now if you've got any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them as best as I can with my voice. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Thank you for taking mercy on my throat then.
No, I have a question.
Andreas.
Yeah, Neil. I have noticed, because the privacy issues, the data privacy issues, you didn't mention it. For example, in our work in the Aspen Smart City Research, we have also a huge of sensors and so on. And one of the sensors tells us that the heating system in this flat doesn't work. And so what's the problem? Do we have a data lag, or it doesn't work? And so we write an email to the person, and then the email says, "Hi, why do you know this? It's crazy." And he says, "Okay, I think the data are anonymous and so on." And how do you think was the data privacy issues? Do you think all the people say, okay, it's so nice, and they give the data, or some people have troubles?
I love small print. I think you put it in the small print. And also, Google, Facebook, all of these people. There was a news story I read recently where a military base, an American military base in Iraq, was revealed because of the jogging app, I won't mention the name, had tracked and publicly positioned where the Marines were training in the desert. So even though it was a hidden facility, it was still publicly broadcast. Now that was a major error on the app's side. I think you're helping a customer. A smart device does need to talk to services in the cloud. I think customers understand this. And I think it's simply a case of, if you do no evil and you're seen to help them, I think it's a case of innocent until proven guilty. And as long as you don't do anything wrong or make that misstep like the jogging app did with the militaries, as long as you don't make a misstep and you consider the data's internal, the relationship is between you and the customer, then I think you're okay. I think that's the way we go. If you don't want to use it, if you don't want the smart features, you can always opt out. But for now, I think innocent until proven guilty, I think.
Are there some questions now? Okay, Neil, thank you very much. Okay, now we have to end up the session. We have one speaker, Peter van der Steen. Is he here? Yeah, okay. And then the panel discussion. Okay, second vote. Now the coffee break. Who would like to have a coffee break or something to charge up the energy? One? Okay. Yeah, the people would like to hear more information to the organization. Should I make a coffee break or? Yep. Coffee break. Or, yes. Okay, then we make a coffee break. Half an hour at 4 o'clock we start with Peter. And yeah, charge up and see you later. Bye bye. Perfect. Okay, now it's 4 o'clock. Not so much people as before the break, but we have to make a break. Okay, now to our last speaker of the day, Peter van der Stegen. Doing it right? Okay, perfect. About, I think, a new tool. And yeah, start, please.
Thank you. So, my name is Peter van der Steen. I work for Energieville. And it's maybe not the most appealing title, the ABEX tool, because it's a bit broader. It's in fact the Energieville building energy and districts tools that we developed that I'm going to present today. So a bit broader. So I'm going to introduce Energieville very quickly and then run through the software applications because that's the products that I'm talking about. Very quickly also, and then give some examples and leave some room for questions and the panel discussion, of course, also. So what is Energieville? Energieville, in fact, is a consortium of 4 partners. You have IMEC, you have VITO, which is a Flemish Institute of Technology and Research, and then you have 2 universities, the University of Leuven and the University of Hasselt, and they combine all the knowledge they have related to energy transition in the broadest sense. So that's all combined in Energieville. So about 250 people, 65, 70 PhDs, and we do publications, studies, and research projects all alike. What are the thematics, the R&D thematics? We have 6 in fact. So we have the strategies and markets, where energy monitoring and policy advice is generated. We have networks as well, electrical and thermal. So real research based on this and also advice given to the industry and the manufacturers. Then we have power control and conversion. We have solar, of course, and storage. And here again, thermal storage and electrical storage. And then the last one, and this is the thematic R&D thematic, or the chapter that I want to dig in to present our products, is the buildings and districts department. And in fact, it's a bit an overarching department because we're talking about buildings and districts. We're talking about locations, about cities. We need the input from all other research groups to have taken into account into our models. So also here, the building and districts is also, we have energy district design, which is energy district design. It's related to the energy districts. And then you have another team which is on life cycle assessment and so on. So that is separated a bit. I'm talking about EDD, energy district design, and those products. Just to frame it right. So what are our assets? In fact, within this team, we have 4 main assets. We have the building energy and the district energy algorithms, the solvers and the optimizers that we develop in our research projects, research for European projects, but also for other governments or for industry. And these algorithms, they generate data or they come from data, they are built upon data, and we test them in living labs and in demos. This is the layer where we do the research and which is not so close to the market, of course. And what we constantly do is, because we want to try to generate an ecosystem, we constantly are looking for partners and for industry partners who can collaborate with us to bring products and algorithms to the market. And these products that I'm going to present today are products that are successfully brought to the market. And the first one is ABEX, that was in the title already. ABEX is in fact an abbreviation of Energy Building Energy Calculation Service, but in fact it's an energy checkup tool. And it's started from, or we took the AM 13790, which is the methodology behind the EPC and EPBD. But there the comparison stops, because what this does, the EPB and EPC, wants to level out the differences. They don't want to take into account user behavior, for example, because they want to give a label or a number to compare, to create a level playing field and to compare the buildings to each other. But we took this methodology and then start changing this methodology to include user behavior. How many people are living in this house? Are they older people or younger people? What is the actual energy consumption in this house? Not the theoretical energy consumption. We are not using the 18 degrees in all the climate zones in a house. No, we want to look at what is really the energy consumption in your house. And then we have it's in fact a building physics calculation. And so we have all the elements for a building physics calculation. So also the building data. This can come from several, or we can get this in several ways. Maybe I have to say that this set of algorithms in fact is built up as a calculation tool with an API around it. So we don't build the front end. It's an API, and an API is an application programming interface. All our algorithms are written in Python to start with, but if we have to convert it to the market, for this one we've used Ruby on Rails for the IT geeks among you. But so it's in fact a set of questions that is offered to a client who builds an API around it and who makes it applicable for consumers to understand and to make them able to answer these questions, of course. So building data can come from measurements, but it can come from reference buildings. But what we developed is another tool, and I will showcase that as well. That's the building geometry service, which is based on LiDAR data. So LiDAR data is in fact it's data of a height on a surface. So if you put a map of your ground surface of a country, and you combine that with the LiDAR data, you see the variations in the height. And so, based on our algorithms, we can then deduct the volume and the surface, the lost surface of the building. So if you, in this service, give in your address, we know what the volumetric data of your house is. So that's very important already to make it more user-friendly, of course, because if you have to ask everyone to measure their roof and we can do this automatically. So we know also if it's a flat roof or a pitched roof, and so on. That are the basic questions, of course. There are 5 basic questions. The API consists out of 180 questions, but there are 5 basic questions are: which type of energy do you heat your house with? How do you cook? What is the building age of your building? What is the age of your building? And how many occupants are there? And what is the type of boiler that you have? Those 5 questions, if we have those, then we can generate you an energy advice. If you give more detail, the energy advice will become much more detailed and much more concrete, in fact. The problem with this is that the people who use these applications are the customers. You have the layer in between, that's the industry partner. It can vary from utility, and I will showcase an example, to a bank, for example, but the end customer is a layman, mostly. And so if you ask to a layman how many insulation they have into the cavity wall, most of them they don't know. So that's an issue. That's an issue. Also, what's indicated, what is in this tool is the financial model. So for each measure that you can take, because in the end it is an as is and then a to be. You ask something, you generate an as is situation, and then there is a to be generated to reduce energy consumption and to focus on renewable energy. You have these financial parameters within. So for all the measures that could be taken, financial parameters are in. But also most often what you see is that deep refurbishment is very, very, very expensive. That is not something new that I'm telling. It's coming out of all European projects. If you just focus on return on investment, you're not going to convince a lot of people to go for deep refurbishment. So what we really need to do, and that's something that we should do, but I think the whole market or the market as a whole, you should look at the secondary benefits, and that's something that you now see also in the Horizon 2020 calls. The secondary benefits like aesthetics, like comfort, like building value. And building value today, it's not very clear if there is an added value on your building or if it's an insurance for decreasing building value. There is a small effect, but not enough to, in fact, go for this kind of investments. So, some issues there. What are the next steps with ABEX? And that is, in fact, that we link into a smart thermostat, for example, or a platform that already exists into a house. Because if we know what the energy consumption in that house is, and we know the outside temperature, we know the inside temperature, and we know when your boiler is working, for example, then over a certain period we will know how well your house is insulated. And we don't need to ask. We know that there is too much variation on the correctness or the answers of the people, but if we have this data, we know, so we can do the same. It's just a much more easier for the end customers, but still the same problem remains. If you only are focusing on the payback time, then it's not enough. In fact, you should do more. So this is now in the phase where we're in step 3 of this. We're in asset 3, we're going to the Living Labs module with ABEX 2.0, let's say. The goal is, of course, to make this also a viable product that we can expand with a partner, of course, because we were never going to build the front end we don't have the ambition to build a smart thermostat. We just want to deliver the smartness of it, or part of the smartness of it. So this is the building geometry service, where you can see that it's a bit of a nice picture where you can see you type in your address and your protected area and lost surface and so on for residential and non-residential pops up in LOD2, and that's level of detail 2. LOD3, for example, that has the windows within. Because you're looking on the top, you don't see the windows. So for that, we need to make an assumption. It's well substantiated, it's linked to a PhD. So we know what the wall windows ratio is for different types of buildings. It's taken into account. But still, if you, for example, as a contractor who replaces windows, wants to give an offer, then based on this, it might be not a very good idea for your business in the end, because it can vary. For your building physics calculations, it's not so much a problem. But if you really want to sell windows to someone, it's not the best idea. For boilers, this works very well. We also do boiler sizing, and we do heat pump sizing. So you can remotely give a proposal to an end customer based on this tool. But for Windows, I wouldn't recommend it. There still you need to visit the house and then really see what the size of the windows is, for example. Also the same actually for outside insulation. It's so specific. If you don't see you can look at Google Maps, but still it will be very hard to give a price quotation based on this Now a level higher, we go from the building to the city. And the city portal is the next product that we rolled out, in fact, in Belgium, at the Belgian or the Flemish DSOs. And in fact, it's nothing more than a building repository. You can showcase nice things, you can make nice analysis, you can do benchmarking, you can see where there is an opportunity for roof insulation, for example, or which district you need to focus on new boilers. But it is nothing without the data. And the data can come from either ABEX, for example, but also from Zet je woning op de kaart, which is put your house on the map, for example. Then you have to ask to a consumer, do you care for giving me all the details of your house? Because for a government, it's very nice information to see where there is an opportunity or not. But then the question remains, for the end customer, what's in it for him? So if he doesn't see the benefit, why should he do it? So that's something that we need to work on, to engage the customer into this story. Now, if you combine these and you add another layer, you add the layer of the district energy, then this is a product that we developed right now, that we're developing right now, and that will have a minimal viable product ready by the end of the year. So you can, in fact, it's an analysis on a location scale. Should I invest my money into the building level, or should I do it on the collective scale? Should it be heat networks or heat storage or electrical storage or things like that? So it's really, it looks at the problem from all kinds of viewpoints. In fact, it's some kind of holistic approach, and you can look at it from the consumer's point of view, but also from the financiers, from the government's point of view, from city planners. So the next step is that we take this and go to these different type of end customers and have a chat and see what do you think to get out of this? What do you see any benefit in this? Because what we see, and we see it a lot, is that financiers have the money to invest, but they are not comfortable at all with investing it in renewable energy or energy efficiency projects, because they are missing this assurance or the security that it's for example, the OPEX or the revenues will stay the same over time and so on. So that's something that we see for financial institutes' point of view. So that's for the software applications. These are some random examples for ABEX. So this is the Cozy Home Fit. Cozy is a subsidiary of ENGIE. So the big utility, they acquired a contractor, and it's their goal to replace installations in dwellings. And they use our tool for it, and they also calculate the boiler size, but also the heat pump size. So that's feasible with it. The next example is the same application, but looked from it from a financial point of view by KBC, which is a quite large financial institute. And there the idea was to look at what is on people's savings accounts, and then put this next to the, for example, the yield that it would bring when you invest in your own home, which is in fact quite a good idea, because the savings account doesn't bring you any money at all, and solar power, for example, brings you some yield. That's a good advice, but then linking loans or a proposal for loans to it, there we're still missing some steps, because from the proposition you get out of this to a loan, then you missed out 2 or 3 steps where someone still gives a quotation to the end customer, and he compares 3 or 4, decides which one he wants to go for, and then he can go for the loan. But before that, it's very hard. So that it's still here, it's on the market today. We still need to work on it to make it a success. And also, again, additional benefits like comfort, aesthetics, you can't see them separate. If you're only looking at the return on investment, then you're limited to a very limited amount of measures that you can take. That's the reality. Another random example of what it can do. You see all the measures, you see the savings in euros, you see the payback time, and so on. So if you have more questions, you can ask me now directly, or you can visit our booth. They told me that I should put that on the screen. So you're very welcome, but if you have questions right now, then please shoot.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Hello. We know Energyville is very, very good park. Yes, collaborative. And questions about what your opinion about technologies change, but human not change. Your research. How your research show this, and what you make for make decision this problem.
Now, what is included, for example, in ABEX is the rebound and the pre-bound effect. That's taken into account, and in fact, that is under digging your business case for investments in, because beforehand, because it's too expensive, people don't heat too much, and then after once the renovation is done, they heat too much because they say, oh, it's much cheaper than it was before. So if you take this into account, then your business case is much worse. That's one thing. Then you have the new techniques you see today on the market. Let's start with the old techniques. Let's start with a heat pump and a gas boiler. Today, it is, and it's very sad to say, a very bad idea financially to put a heat pump in your house, because it will cost you more, and I'm speaking for the Belgian market, but it's in fact in whole Europe an issue with the high electricity prices. It is an issue to put heat pumps forward as a good technique. It is a very good technique. You can combine it with heat pumps, with PV, with solar, with batteries, with everything that the market is changing in. But still, someone, or the governments, or the EU, or the world, or I don't know, are choosing to benefit gas to. So it's not only a consumer's point of view that you need to change, it's also the government's point of view that needs to change, and to benefit the techniques that we all agreed upon that are better for the climate, because that's the big debate, of course. And yeah, it's really time that we do something about it, and it annoys me a lot. But yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, then thank you. Stay here, because I will start with a short panel discussion.
Okay.
With the last two speakers are here. Thank you very much to be here. Neil and Peter, take a place. Would you like something to drink for the call? And make a little bit comfortable. Okay, I take the mobile. You must switch it on. Yes.
There we go.
Perfect. Do you have any points at this moment?
I do actually.
Yeah,
I did
perfect.
hold on, because whilst you were earlier, I was very interested in that LiDAR picture, and one of the things you mentioned is that actually the LiDAR answers some questions in terms of the volume, but the heat loss with the windows, the doors, especially in an office building, is quite significant. And one of your issues that you had, one of the challenges, was trying to get that data from the consumer and asking them quite tricky questions. How many floors, how many windows, the volume of the windows, etc. I'm from the UK, and the government over in the UK made it law that when you sell a house or sell a property, you have to create the homeowner pack. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay. So the homeowner pack specifically addresses an energy rating for the property, and it looks at various things from the construction, brick, steel, glass, as well as various things such as floor plans with windows and doors. And then you've got that when you buy a house, you have this pack in order to. I'm just wondering if that's a government mandated document that is accurate and produced by a surveyor. Is that what you need?
The thing is that, in fact, what you're describing is EPC. That's the label which is attached to the house and which is in fact the passport of the house related to the energy efficiency. Now, what is particular in this case is that in the UK, it's freely available for all companies and all research and development institutes to use. So every time you rent a house, every time you sell a house, it gets a label, but it's freely available. So it's very a coincidence that now we're looking into these databases which are huge and which contain a lot of very, very relevant information for this, in fact. Now, in a lot of countries in the European Union, it's not freely available.
Right.
You see? So that's already a problem. You have the data, but you're not sharing it. And why not? Okay, there is privacy. That's true. You have the privacy issue, and I should say that our tools are GDPR compliant. That's something which is important. But still, it's if just checking the box. If people don't have a problem with it, why not? Why not do it? Why not make it freely available for everyone, to the benefit of the economy and also of energy transition goals?
But in Austria we have also the energy label. If we bought an flat, we get this energy label, but this energy label is not so accurate and it's not correct, I think. And mostly time it stands. It's nearly a new one flat, but it's not exactly what the energy kilowatt hours per year per square meters. But it only says it's near a new building, and this is all of the energy label. And as in Austria, it doesn't work like this energy label, and also we have no transparency that the data are public. Yeah.
As our Russian friend asked in the audience, do you think, since the introduction, because it was only a few years ago that they were introduced, do you think there has been a consumer change of behavior from people actually seeing, it's like at school when you get a grade and it says you've got a D for your property? That's surely got to drive some consumer change. It's hard to answer unless you've got some numbers, but I definitely think if I was buying somewhere and I could see that I'd even write the D in red so that it looked really bad, -D. I'd think, oh no, terrible, my mum will be disappointed. That way, you're encouraging the consumers to go out and actually seek help with these things, and if you can get them to give you your data because you're going to save them money, maybe that's one way of getting that hidden data from them.
Yeah, indeed. But you also don't have to underestimate the emotional factor of buying a house. It's very subjective also. People love the space. They see the beautiful fireplace. They see the trees around it. They also buy the experience somehow. And if you're giving advice that the house in fact is rotten based on energy efficiency, people get crossed. It's a very hard message to convey on some certain points. But then you also have to take into account, and that's what I said, the building value. Does it increase when you invest and with the same amount that you invested in? And if you don't invest, is your house then less valuable on the market? That's an effect that you don't see today. You see that the bottom price, the prices are steered by something else than energy efficiency still today. And yeah, I read an interesting article about Triodos Bank yesterday, and they said that they shouldn't make the energy efficiency loans they shouldn't link it to a person but to a house, so that this house remains financed across the lifespan, in fact, rather than the personal loan. That, I think that's an interesting point of view.
Okay, also we see that the data of building geometry, building information about this is very complex to get. If a new building, it's more simpler, but it's also a problem. And all of the buildings who are built up years ago, we have no information. Is there any possibility for the research to have an overview with a plane or helicopter to have such a geometry
How
model?
penetrating is that LiDAR? Can you see into people's roofs?
No, it's of course you have the EPC, that's for the renovations. You have the EPB for the new buildings, and so at a certain rate our buildings become better. That's already a good point. Then for the existing buildings, I'm not too sure what the solution is. I think that if we really want to have deep renovations, and the question is, should you have deep renovations? Because deep renovations are based on building level, and what I just explained also in the Urban Energy Pathfinder is that you also can look at a district level to maybe have the same amount of CO2 reduction at a lower cost. So I think we should the resources the financial resources that we have should be spent wisely to get to our goals. And maybe it's not a good idea to make every house that is existing today energy neutral, because it will cost a lot of money and it's probably burning cash somehow.
If you have any question, please raise your hand and feel free. Another point I mentioned, I think both of you said the engagement of people is very important. The engagement for people for mobility is easy. To have a Ferrari or a Tesla, it's no problem to solve the engagement. But how we can engage the people for energy? What's the top 3 issues in your... It's a dummy question, but...
As always, the answer's always just money. If you give them a discount, they'll buy it. If you tell them it's worth more, that's right. Let's have a think. Okay, so from my perspective, my day-to-day job, it's all about trying to use technology to maximize return on what the customer base is now. So yes, it's great to attract new customers, but as we've talked about in the energy world, new customers don't come along that often. You tend to end up with a base, and you just need to keep them sticky, as one of the speakers called it. I think in that respect then, I think brand loyalty, knowing that you can trust the billing model, so you're not going to suddenly get hit after a really cold, I don't know how it was in Europe, but in the UK, especially the last couple of, the summer was really lovely and the winter was surprisingly snowy. We didn't expect that. And as a result, the billing prices and things all went a bit wrong. Personally, my own apartment, I'm in a 1-bedroom flat in a very big town, and it was just crazy. I was still paying money out in anticipation, but the billing model hadn't adjusted for the temperature of the actual property. I don't have a smart meter, so I didn't have live feed, so I was just charged my going into the winter pricing for the quarter. But actually I'm in surplus now. It would have been nice, especially with me having barbecues, if they'd have just said, actually keep £50 back because you've not used it. It's been so warm outside, you don't need it. I think something like that's responsive, and I would feel as a customer like somebody's looking after me and I can trust them. Whereas I can get a text from my dentist and my doctor to say you need to come in for an appointment, but I never get a text from my energy provider saying you don't need to pay me money this month.
Okay, it's good. It remember me a story what a colleague and I talked about yesterday, I think, or the day before. He said he was spent blood, and then he received an SMS when the blood is to the patient, and they say, okay, now your blood is to the patient and helps one people. It's not the name of the people, but the people say, okay, now my blood is saves life.
Because there was a brand benefit there. There was no practical use for that text message, but the feeling you've given the customer, that donor now feels like genuinely I have made a difference. I've helped someone. It's that feeling you want to get where you get I don't know, like a surprise present or something like that. You want a little bit of an idea. It would be brilliant if, with all your advanced data sets there, we could suggest, did you know we've got an installer in your town and, we know that you suffer with the condensation on the windows. We can give you a discount because he's coming around all of our clients, for 50% off. If you ignore it, it's no problem. But if you encourage it and it's genuinely useful, genuinely applicable, then that sort of marketing and upselling is a benefit. And I don't see that as I know sometimes marketing can be a bit keen to push the sale. But if you're doing it because of a genuine need, you're going to save them money and you can encourage them to do it. I think it's a very interesting thing. I've not heard of the blood donor text before, but I donate blood and I want a text now.
You must donate in Vienna.
Any ideas otherwise to fill in the other two common issues you've seen?
No, it's a very complex problem.
Yeah, certainly.
Another point I have is both of you say prediction is important, forecasting, and do we need any research in developing new forecasting methods and analytics, or are we good enough to upscale business models? You're the research one.
Well, yeah. Very difficult questions. I would say, Do we need more forecasting?
Do we need research in forecasting, or should we more use it, and it's only the last step how we use the forecasting tool, or is it to have the good forecasting tool? I have better forecasting, and it's sometimes good, sometimes not.
Maybe one thing that for new buildings it's very easy to forecast. More or less but then again, if you have 10 people in the same house, you will have 10 different energy consumptions. That's for sure. But even with new buildings, the bracket is smaller. In older buildings, the bracket is much more large, and if you have to look at collective solutions and not having the data, then you should have more information to estimate the load, in fact, and see what the consumption could be, because that's quite important for the calculation of your costs of your collective system. But yeah, it's not good enough for an answer, right?
It's enough.
Well, I was thinking mathematicians have been around for a long time, and there's lots of models that we use throughout industry all the time being developed. As a computer person, for instance, in the 1980s, there was a whole heap of people doing sorting algorithms, and all this is in a computer world, when you have a list of things, you need to sort them by, if it's properties that are the furthest away by distance, or properties that are the furthest away by the road layout, okay, things like this. And there was lots and lots and lots of competition amongst academics that were trying to solve this problem in the least CPU cycles or the least amount of energy to do this sorting. I think there's a lot of work already been done for algorithms and things, I am a bit of a geek in that I came across an algorithm called a Voronoi Noi or something like that. I can't pronounce the name. And it was an incredible algorithm. I was looking at it going, wow, this is brilliant. And I use it before meshing. It's good for creating maps and routes and things, and for fragmenting them. And I love it. I think we could certainly learn from existing knowledge. So existing algorithms, I think if we go and investigate, this is my problem, get some academics and see what has already been figured out. And I don't think you should reinvent the wheel. Certainly reuse what we already have, because at the end of the day, data is just numbers, and well, we've been working on numbers since the Stone Age, haven't we?
Perfect, thank you. Do you have any question? I have one point on my list. Neil, you mentioned that if the boiler doesn't work, the system call the people. Why the people? Why can't the system talk to the boiler directly, to the chatbot of the boiler with the chatbot of the service, and the customer has a display or a smartphone app or something else where it say, okay, your boiler is getting off, but the service team is coming or something else, or you have the opportunity to, okay, they will come or will not come. The people must talk.
You're right, you're crushing me, Andreas. That is what I was trying to suggest. So the idea is, with a smart boiler especially, so that was one of my clients I've just done smart boilers with. So in this case, it's a small circuit board, just added into an existing device line. So we ran a prototype, started with 10,000 customers, and we rolled them out. So as the installers were going out, we actually put out version B, which was the online version, the smart version, and we started to get those metrics. So we gathered the data into Azure, like the IoT hub. So we started getting all that. Now, what we wanted is they were experiencing a lot of, when there was an issue and a call or a live chat came in, the customer service people, like the actual taking the phone call, they couldn't tell straight away whether it was going to be a billing query or if it was a service request or whatever, and they were having to alt tab a lot around all the different screens and everything. So we tidied all that up, made it a nice simple screen. If we know that this customer is using one of the smart boilers, then we get rid of the triage script and we query everything we need. We built that in. So we took the triage script to the IoT guys and we said it needs to be able to tell us this information. Make sure it can do that. Okay, great. So then we can query it remotely. We can automatically schedule an engineer. Because we schedule it, we do have to still get access to the property. Yeah. That's the annoying thing. Yeah. I was saying before, honestly, if I could change one thing in this market, I would make all utilities available from the outside of the building. Yeah. Honestly, it would be so much easier. And so much wasted energy. It drives me mad when I see people go into a site, taking a photo of a door. I came, but you weren't here. Go back. Oh, it's a nightmare. So definitely cut down on that. But you do have to let the customer know. So we send them a text, but we also need to kind of know that they've seen that. So with a text message, you can see whether or not they've read it, whether it's been delivered. That's the key thing. You can tell it's been delivered, but not necessarily if it's been read unless it's on WhatsApp. And then after that, we sometimes, if we have to, we can send out a paper notification, as you said, because not everyone has a smartphone and not everyone is very technical savvy. You do have, I know it's just a general consensus, like for the older demographic, or a building, when you've got a building with, somebody's just put the manager's name in the paperwork, and it's just a throwaway address. So yeah, we have had to do that, but in the future, I would like to see some sort of, Amazon have created those locks for the door where you can let yourself into somebody's house to deliver a parcel. I can see that in the future. If you can trust somebody to come into you to drop a parcel in your front door, that's where the boiler is, that's where the electrical meter is, that's where your water meter is, so I don't know, but that's what I would like to see by the time I die anyway.
Perfect.
With this cold, it won't be long.
Yep.
Hello, concerning the success, I know that in Holland they are renovating the houses and they are putting all the utilities outside, boilers, everything, accessible from outside.
That's true. Indeed.
Yeah. So this is one. Second, my question is, what are the three most important drivers for the change? The people will go to be more wise in using the electricity.
Well, I think it's policy is first thing. Sorry, I think policy should come first. I think that there is a lot of margin still on the policy, and the example I gave was related to the prices for energy taxation. We've seen it with.
This is the hardest thing to change.
Well, I don't know if it's the hardest thing because you've seen it with diesel now. In fact, all of a sudden the policymakers see that diesel is a bad example or is a bad idea, and they all of a sudden start raising the diesel price all over Europe. Yeah.
No, but when you see the difference about this Dieselgate problem in States and in Europe, matter of fact, in States they really paid the penalty. In Europe, nothing happened because
That's true, yeah.
they are too close to. The cloth is too close to the skin, you know, and
thing is that I'm-
the same with the energy.
Yeah.
So, give me more independent hints how to do it, or from your point of view, because I don't think so. Nothing will change from this up to bottom. Maybe bottom to up. What do you think? Maybe some technology. I don't know. What do you think?
I think, and I can't give an answer to the key drivers. That if I would know that, then I wouldn't be here, I guess, or maybe I would be here, but on the stage. No, the thing is that there are a lot of things that are there. The techniques are there. The levers are there. You have these price things that should change, and all of this together will make a change in the end, but only if people want it. There is not going to change anything if we stick to what we already know, what we already see. What you see that we know what we have to do. It's in the Paris agreements. It's very clear what we have to do. Now the only thing is that we have to do it and implement it. That's the hardest part. And walk the way you talk, and that's still something which hasn't trickled down to the.
There is, of course, there's one solution. Nobody is paying really the CO2 costs, because when you are burning the fuel, nobody is paying the environmental costs. So it's only one solution. If it's like this, just you have to pay. Like put to the cost of the benzene fuel also the cost of the CO2, and then suddenly you will see that the real cost of the fuel is 2 times the cost of the electric vehicles. This is simple, yeah. The money talks, and then people will understand that it's not the fresh air is not for free. It's not for free.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's a
good idea.
Very important driver. Yeah.
Do you have any points? Is still enough to go to bed? Something else?
Andreas, you kill me.
No, I don't think. Yeah, then I will end the panel discussion. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and nice evening, and good healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.